Right. So this is our second welding class. We got introduced to just the user interface of AutoCAD. Some of the draw and modify commands are in some of the videos that I emailed you, and covered what we talked about the first class. Second class, let's get to work and make a drawing. And so I handed you out a hard copy of this print that's up on my screen right now. And and so we're going to use this as our reference. And I emailed you with those links to the videos of what we covered. I also put in there a DWG file or drawing type file. And it'll just have some formatting that's ready for us to draw. And so I'm going to open that up from that email. If you have CAD open, you can probably open it right from the email. If you don't have CAD open, it'll probably like need to know what program to open it. But I have CAD open. Let me see. Minimize this. The adjust this here so I can get to my CAD. But yeah, I have CAD open. In fact, I actually have that drawing open. But if I was just on the start menu, as long as I have CAD open, I should be able to just open that from that email. So I might have to download it. Once it downloads, you should be able to double click on that thing. And it'll probably open up right in CAD. So that's what I've got open here. Uh, oh yeah, mine. Sorry, yours wouldn't have that. Mine has the completed drawing, but I'm gonna delete that real quick. Um, That's also how you can save this if you don't have a thumb drive. It's just when you get done, when you actually do a save as, and you could start that right now just so you have a copy if you've opened it from your email. When I'm opening from a template file, in this case, we're opening from a .dwg file, but when I'm opening from that, I generally try to remember to save right away with my drawing information. So if I do a save as, this might work for you guys if you don't have a thumb drive. Just do a save as. You can save it as the same name. That's fine. I would just pick the desktop of this computer, uh, and then save it. It's going to say that I already have one there. I'm going to replace it. Yeah, replace it. It probably not going to tell you that you have one there or not, but that should be on your desktop now. So mine shows up right here. Um, these other ones are just backup files that are coming with it, but yeah, so I have this. So you'll be able to just, when you open up your email and attach a file, just attach it from your desktop. It'll be sitting here, and then just email it to yourself. That's the best way to keep your drawing. Maybe you don't have to do it till you're done drawing today, so you actually have something different than just what I emailed you. So if you would have saved it when I just did, you just have the same file. But after we get done drawn, you can hit save again, and it'll save to your uh, desktop on this computer. Then just make sure before you leave class that you just email that to yourself. Like go to your email, choose that desktop file as an attachment, and email it to just yourself again, and then you'll have a copy of it in your email that you can access next week or every class that you need to. So that's what I did. Opened it, saved it. It's ready to go, ready to do some work on it. So what we want to do is analyze this and start drawing. So before I even start, the reason why I sent you this file is just because there is some formatting stuff. Most important for us is that I've built some layers for us to work off of. I'm gonna turn them all on here, so delete them too. But if we started from default, we just wouldn't have any layers built, and we have to spend some time building layers, kind of do what I call is like front loading the program or just doing some formatting. I've sent you this, so you already have. Yeah, you have more than what we're going to use here. I'm going to sneeze in just a second. Oh yeah, so go back to my share screen here. I had to sneeze, so I had to go to pause my recording. Um, let's see. I was saying that if yeah, so there's just we needed a couple layers to draw on, so we're going to separate some of our drawing types by layers. And so this isn't something I need you to like know super in depth. I just needed to provide you with some different things to draw on. So what we've got is if we expand this list, whatever is highlighted here, again, I'm on the home tab. So I've just opened up the drawing and made sure I'm on the home tab, which is where we're going to live most of our life for these few classes that we do, just right here on this tab. We don't need to really know these other tabs in detail, just how to save this thing or save as, how to save it, and let's see here. And then that I've already preloaded some layers on this layers palette. So what layer you're drawing on is what is displayed here. So it's just kind of this visual. Oh, I also have my properties panel up, but I'll get rid of that and draw like I don't have it because you don't really need to worry about that too much either for this initial for this just learn how to draw. Like let's just get to drawing more than learn the programming too in depth here. But um, so what I've provided you is if I click on this button, it shows you what all layers I have. Like it's just kind of like it's a way I manipulate and change layers or add layers or delete layers. So if I open this up, that you wouldn't have had anything on here in a default template. All you'd get is layer 0 if you would have opened this, or if you've downloaded this from your home and you open up a drawing file or even a DWT file, it's going to come with no preloaded layers. It's just default just to have a layer 0, and then it's just made to build layers for what your specific needs are. So I've just sent you some of the default layers that we use, kind of in ASME drafting, mechanical drafting, but we don't even need most of these. All I really need for you guys to have is a construction layer, which we have there. It's this blue layer. It's set not to print. And that's just in case I forget to turn it off and I'm looking at it. If I actually was making a drawing, it wouldn't show up. So that's that, which it doesn't affect us either. And then, and then we just need the visible object layer too. So the stuff we're going to draw is going to be construction line work and then some visible actual object lines. So, and those are set to print and set to be, essentially, it's going to be our machine cut lines for our plasma table. So those are the two layers we're going to use here, and I think that's it. The rest are kind of like stuff you'd see in your mechanical drawing class or your blueprint reading, right? We when we use CAD as drafters, we separate like our section lines, our plane lines, our phantom lines, our hidden lines, our center lines. These all we keep on specific layers where we designate the line type and the line weight and even a color, just so we can break up the color. Our prints are going to be black and white generally, so the color isn't going to come through on prints. It's mostly for us to keep it organized while I'm drawing than it is for what my print's going to look like. I'm not going to print in color. It's just that I draw in color to just so I can identify that pretty easily while I'm drawing. And so we use that as our advantage because we have that option here. Anyway, that's a little in depth on why I even have layers, right? A DWG file is usually this really saturated type of file with lots of line types, lots of layers doing all different kinds of things. And so, um, that's where we draw that's where we do most of our drawings. And we have the most data saturated drawings. And then our output from this is going to be that DXF file type that the machine is going to cut. And it's just going to be a single layer. It's just going to be, it might have layer 0 with nothing on it. And then it might have, just the visible line layer. So it's just going to simplify I'm going to be able to strip down a DWG file or even just export a DXF file that's going to be a stripped down type of file with just the machine cut lines that need to happen. So that's what our machines like. They like simplified file types. And the industry standard for most cutting equipment is a DXF file. So it's one of your main outputs you have when you go to even if you were to go to like export a file type. Let's see here, a DXF is what's their file types here? Um, yeah, act like I'm gonna do a save as. DXF is one of my save as. It's funny that it kind of shows up a little bit different labeled up in there when I look to output it. Uh, Okay, I was just making sure. It's going to be one of these file types when we send our simplified file at the end. We can just make a DXF from our DWG. So it doesn't really change our DWG. It's going to be what we're going to draw right now. So I am going to be back and forth between this visible object layer and this construction layer. You just bring this drop down list up and you just select it as what layer you want to draw on. Whatever's displayed is what layer you're drawing on. So for this first initial stage, I'm just going to do some construction line work. So I'm going to my construction layer. I'm going to bring up my drawing file. There it is. This is what we have to recreate. We don't need this. I've already got the imagery loaded for some just default ISU uh, logos that I've traced out in CAD. We don't have to use these. And some of it is just to kind of facilitate a discussion about kind of graphics and how you would go about customizing this. It can be a little more labor intensive. What I've talked about in class, and I'll just capture here, is that there isn't like a quick way to just bring in an image and like kind of like silhouette it or like have it like interpret the uh yeah, just interpret the image as kind of this anyway. It doesn't interpret it as well like default CAD doesn't. You kind of have to trace it and draw it out, and it's a little bit labor intensive to draw stuff or to trace imagery in CAD. I'm going to show you how to do that here in a second video, just so you know how to do it. And if you have this at home and you want to have some extra time to draw, it's really it's accurate and it works well. And I do some of my imagery that way in CAD, especially when that's what I'm teaching. There are plugins for CAD that'll make that easier. It's just that there's nothing default loaded that's going to make that fast to interpret an image into something that's going to get cut, right? But Plasma software, whatever your Plasma table, generally is going to come with maybe a fast track way. It's, because the softwares that we draw that we can draw with in any plasma cutting software or any laser cutting software. Usually the softwares that come with those equipment they're kind of like what I call are dumbed down or simplified versions of a CAD-based product or a program. And so they make some steps actually simpler. So they're better in some ways for doing like a simplified image input is, and I think FlashCut calls it silhouetting or something or silhouette. I think if so, if we could, anyway, we might be able to add our imagery in FlashCut once we add our DXF file with just the hard cut lines that we'll draw today we might be able to input our DXF file into the Plasma machine, and then while we're in there, upload some imagery from our thumb drive if we've saved it, and it can maybe interpret the silhouette to apply the maybe a graphics to our part, customize it. I'm gonna play with that next week and see how we can get that to work because that's one advantage FlashCut has over CAD. It's just that it's designed to interpret imagery and be able to make like a cut from that. I can't say it's just that simple. I mean, I think there's some manipulation on that end to make it work, but so it's not like just easy. There's some work to do, but it's still easier than probably tracing everything from CAD. Um, but why I would choose to show you how to draw is the CAD is just that mothership drawing software, and all their programs are usually based from it. So the concepts that you learn how to draw within CAD, they really relate to a lot of other program concepts, even if they are simplified programs. So and flash cut is what this particular laser cut or plasma cutter uses, but other manufacturers of all of whatever company you'd go to if you were buying your own, it's probably gonna come with a different kind of software that's like into some kind of CAD based. So I thought I'd teach you I'm just teaching you the mothership type drawing program that really all cutting equipment is designed to take file types from CAD into them. And in the professional industry, that's still how we deliver, even though some of the professional cutting software might come with something different. It seems like working with engineering design and drafting groups, they're still delivering a lot of cut parts from their DXF file types. So anyway, long story short on file types, let's draw this thing. So what we want to do is I always start with kind of some construction, like the boundary of how big it's going to be. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit. The way I approach, drawing something like this is I'm just trying to get a feel for what, how it's laid out here. Um, One thing to note here is that, yeah, I get the over. So I like to start with like just an overall boundary, so I know how big this is going to be in my drawing space. From there, sometimes I take my boundary and I put center lines on it, and you can tell here, at least along, like if it's going to be our x-axis here or the horizontal, uh, this horizontal line across here, I can tell that really a lot of dimensions are taken, and I have this vertical center line, maybe like a y-axis here. A lot of these dimensions are based from the y-axis, and that's a pretty standard like drafting engineering notation is to in some cases we'll take and pull dimensions from center lines. It's like we're establishing datums when we're doing drawings and dimensioning drawings. We're trying to pull from uh, controlled planes, axis, surfaces, even edges and stuff. But in this case, a lot of dimensions are based from center on this particular drawing and kind of based from bottom up. And so I'm just gonna just try to follow these the best I can. It doesn't mean it's easy to piece this together. All the information's here to build it, but I got to kind of like work my way into it. So let's see. So I'm gonna have this up on my other screen. I'm gonna be referring to it. But first, initially, I'm gonna build this boundary. That's an 18-inch by 11.5-inch boundary. And then I'm going to probably put some center lines on there. And then I'm going to come back here and start pulling some of these dimensions from center line and start putting in some of the visible line, machine cut lines that we need here. So let me go do that. At least start with a boundary. I'm on my construction layer. And so we're just going to be dealing with draw commands and some modify commands. So to build this rectangle, I can build it a couple different ways. I could build it line by line. And if that was the case, what I do is I'd come up here with a line. Line command is just ready to input a start and a stop. So I have to actually left click wherever I want to place this line. And it really doesn't matter. I have this stuff down here just for us to talk about in the future here. And it's where I'm getting some of that ISU imagery. Um, and it's on a zero layer, so it's not on any layer that I'm going to use at this point. So I'm not, anyway, I just have it down here and out of the way. Really, I'm going to start drawing this in kind of the positive quadrant or quadrant. X and Y here. I'm always keeping track of where my origin point is. So I'm just going to draw here, but you can technically draw anywhere around here, right? You can start anywhere. Sometimes it matters, sometimes in this case it doesn't matter. So I'm just saying in some, in the futures, sometimes it matters. Depends on who I'm building drawings for, but for us, doesn't matter. It's just this universal, huge drawing space. What I want to do is just have some bearings here. I don't want to get like zoomed way out here and lose and start drawing out here. If you look at my cursor, it's a huge data number in there. This says these are in inches, by the way. So this is what is this? 51,000 inches. So if I'm zoomed out like this, I'm it it's a long ways out. So the idea of drawing in here in this space is definitely have an idea of how big your object is, and then make sure you're kind of zoomed in to represent that size. So I'm zooming in here, and that's why I have some imagery loaded here, so you can kind of keep your bearings just a little bit. This stuff is still going to be noticeable when I draw my shape here. So this isn't going to be like disappeared, or I'm not going to be zoomed way in. It's going to be representative of size here. I think this is like a 5-inch or 7-inch size graphic. But in any case, I'm just going to draw up here. You can see my cursor is much smaller units now, like 30 something. These are just, it is XY coordinates that cursor is reading out. So the first one that's highlighted blue is the X coordinate. The second grayed out one is the Y coordinate. So that only displays if you have that dynamic input on here and loaded from this list. Dynamic input. That's how that displays at the cursor like this. It wants to know, for a line, it wants to know where to start the line, where to end the line. So if you were going to build a rectangle by line, 11.5 by 18, here's one way you could do it, right? Like maybe I'll start at the bottom of my, uh, it's 18 wide by 11.5 tall is what's the boundary of our part is. So if I just click here, left click, then I'm just going to start drawing. And I just use I use this polar snap tracking right here to display those. I have that on so it displays these green projections when I hit those specific degree increments, and it really helps me stay in orthographic alignment too with a 90-degree straight up and down vertical line and kind of a 0 or 180-degree horizontal straight line. So I use that to my advantage. It's the same thing of kind of turning on ortho mode, which is F8. I just don't, you'll see me not use this as much, but I have to be careful not to pull things out of orthographic alignment. But I do have this is on to help me stay accurate. But so I'm going to draw this rectangle boundary totally vertical and horizontal. So in this direction, it was 18 inches, enter. So I just enter the number while I'm in there. So I've snapped the line. And then I just left clicked once to start the line. And as I pulled away in the direction I want to go, then I input the data with the keyboard. I use the numlock keyboard, the little 10 keypad with my left hand to enter my data, but some people use the top row. I usually don't. Like when you get good at drafting, you'll just use the 10 keypad for all your data inputs. It's just the way we work. My hand sits nicely over there. It has an enter button with it. So it's the only thing it doesn't really have is an escape button, but sometimes enter is escape. It's kind of confusing, but it's how I start commands and exit commands is with enter. So the 10 keypad does a lot of good to have my hand on that. It's close to a delete key as well, so it has a delete key on it, I mean. So it just has generally what I need with my left hand to input data from the keyboard and drawing is I do it from the 10 keypad and my other hand on the mouse here. So what I do is like, so in line's a continuous command. So it just wants me to, it knows I probably want to build geometry more than just a line. So it's just this, like once you snap a line, when you enter, or if you're just clicking 2 points to establish a line, it's going to just keep allowing you to click points as you go around. make your object. To escape it is either escape on the keyboard or enter also escapes the command once you're done with it. Spacebar also enters and escapes. So enter is to exit the command and we'll go right back into the last command used. So we're using enter a lot, we're using delete a lot, we're using escape a lot on our keyboard. I'm using the number keys to enter data. So this one is, I just drew that 18 inches long. This is 11 and a half. So I'm just going to point my cursor in the direction it's going. And I'm just going to enter 11.5, enter. And that keeps me in the command. It makes my line that long. And then this way again is 18 inches. I could enter 18, but you can also use this like this object snap tracking that I have on right here. It allows me to kind of cursor over a grip. I have to have my object snaps on as well. And I have to have, I have most of mine turned on here. You can see I have a few turned off, but I have most of my snaps on. So you have to have those on, and you have to have this polar tracking, or sorry, object snap tracking on right next to it. It looks like an angular measurement here. But what that allows you to do is like instead I can enter 18 and hit enter, but I can actually just like reference a point in space like this. That's an 18-inch line. And then if I pull away from it, it like tracks away from me. And then I'm gonna be able to pull until both of these line up. So I'm just kind of moving. It knows that I kind of almost like scoped in on that endpoint. As I pull across, it's like, hey, there's where you're vertically aligned with that. And is that what you want? It's like, yeah. So you can use that to your advantage. That's what I just did to help you like kind of track to the other geometry, which you'll see me use that a lot here probably. So anyway, and then the last thing is I'm just going to close this up. I can go clear back to this grip, click it. I can see the right. And then I'm still in the command. It still wants to let me keep drawing, but I can just hit escape. Or I can hit enter is kind of the to exit the command. And now that is a rectangle drawn 11 and a half by 18. And it's all kind of individual lines essentially, right? These that show up when I highlight and click on them, they're just the grips that are associated with it. Lines have, I think I said this before in one of my videos, that geometry has different grips. Lines have a midpoint and endpoints that you can grip and snap to keep things accurate. So all this is like a machine can cut this because it's hooked up to itself line for line. There is no spaces between these. The nature of these grips, the object snaps, and how we draw is that we want to hook everything up without any breaks in it, especially if it's machine cut drawing. But in all of our drawings, that's why O snaps are the only way we can draw accurately. Otherwise, we have to zoom way in and we'd never get things linked up correct. So it has to usually geometry has to hook to grips or snaps that are associated with it in order for it to be uh, drawn correctly. So there's my rectangle. I just want to show you that's one way to do it with line by line. I could have set my boundary by rectangle. It's a draw command we have. We can draw polygons of different size, different sides and rectangles. And so if I would have just chose rectangle, it kind of functions the same. I could have picked anywhere in space to left click, and you click once, and then you start pulling away, and it starts building the rectangle. And then what you get is just like two dialog boxes. Like most geometry has two dialog boxes. Even a line has like an X and a Y dialog box, essentially. How you get back and forth between those dialog boxes is you tab. So if I want to enter the width of this rectangle, I could enter it, and then and if I want to and not hit enter, hit tab moves me to the other dialog box. There might be another key on the keyboard. I just use tab as my um that's the key I use. There's probably three other keys that will get you to that dialog box, but I use tab. I'm sure there's others, but this is how I go back and forth and enter this data accurately. So it's like, oh, I needed mine to be 18, and then I would hit tab. Don't hit enter. Hit tab, and it will kind of lock down that box. If you hit enter, I think it'll just end the command at whatever the height was of this. So I tab over to this one, and then this would be 11 and a half. And now I can hit enter. But even if I hit tab again, it will be back to the other box. They're kind of locked down though. Then you hit enter, and this will be an 11 and a half by 18-inch rectangle as well. The difference is it's like a joined unit. It's all one. So if I select it, it's like one single unit. It's all like a joined polygon is what I'd call this. Machine interpretation really loves this. It just knows that there's no breaks in the geometry. So the machine can interpret like a cut. It's not what it's cutting in this case, but I'm just imagining that we are going to build something that does get cut. Machines love this joined nature of geometry like this. And this is fine as long as it's hooked up. Like a machine will interpret this correctly, but if you have a break in those two ends and how they meet, machines don't like that. They'll read it just how it is. And so anyway, maybe this is preferred versus our geometry being broken up into all these different segments, right? So, and it's easier to grip move and move stuff around if the nester has to, you know, reorganize your geometry. They may already join it together so they don't lose it, or their program might do that for them. But you just don't want things to be able to break apart when people move stuff in the digital world. So anyway. I just wanted to show you that. I'm gonna probably use this one. So then how you delete stuff, there's lots of ways. You can single select it, you can delete it, you can lasso select it, you can delete it, you can do the other, sorry, delete. You can do the other crossing window, mass select everything, delete. I don't use that erase key much. I mostly use my delete key. So yeah. And then one thing that we'll use a little bit here is move. Like if you've placed something you don't want it there, you can always move it pretty easily. Like the move command, you select move, and then it wants to know what geometry. I'm going to select just a single selection to select that rectangle. You know that you've selected geometry when you're in. A lot of commands will highlight lines like this. It's kind of how you know that you've selected something. It goes that kind of neon blue. So that's pretty common, whether it's copy command, move command, or mirroring. You see these like your drawings kind of go electric, and that's electric. Oh, that's a good song. Okay, anyway, I'm going to move this. What it wants to know is select everything, which I could select a huge array of geometry to move stuff, but it's all going to kind of be in relation to how it is. So I'm just going to single select this. You hit enter to select, or you'll see me like right click a lot to hit enter. It does the same thing. Enter and right clicking on the mouse do the same thing. They just move me to the next step of the command here. So move has a two-step kind of command. It has like what geometry and then what is the base point that you want to move from? And then it's actually where you want to move it. So I think of it as actually a three-step command. Choose geometry, choose where to move the geom, like what base point to move the geometry from, and then where do you want to move it. So base points are anything. They're usually grips. They can be, you could decide to move stuff from center, from any kind of grip that might show up. I've got midpoint, endpoints, and centers that are showing up on this particular geometry. So you can pick anywhere to move it. You could even pick some weird space out here. It'll move it in relation to that. Doesn't have to be on the object, just it usually is. I'm going to move mine a little closer to my origin point just because I drew two of them. So I'm just like moving, zooming out by this corner is what I selected. I left click that to select that corner. And then it just automatically moves me to the next phase of the command, which is like, okay, third step would be place it where you want it. I'm just moving it here just because I'm getting a little closer to my other geometry. So I'm right here. Here we go. Let's actually start drawing. I think I said I would draw some center lines in this thing, like vertical and horizontal. So I'm just going to pick line command on this now. Line, where do I want the line to start? I'm going to look for that midpoint grid. I mean, if I even get close to it, it starts showing up. And once it shows up, it'll snap to it. Even if I'm away like this, like if I'm like here, it'll snap me to that. If once it recognizes a snap, it's going to like target me to go there. So no matter how far away from you are, if that snap's showing up, it's the one that's going to snap my line to. And that's just what happened there. And then I'm just pulling across. I'm doing a full center line across here. So I'm gonna left click now once I get to this like where it intersects. Pretty much looks like it's another midpoint grip. If I even got to here, but it's gonna hit there. Yeah. Then I just left click again, and then it acts like it wants me to keep drawing. Now I'm just gonna hit enter or right click to get out of the command. I'm gonna go right back into the command. The quickest way is just to hit enter again, and then I'm right back into the last command to use. That's how I mean, I could go up here and select it again. But if you just hit enter, I'm right back into the line command. I'm going to draw a vertical center line. So I'm going to look for that same grip. There's the midpoint grip. I'm going to drag it through. So I've left clicked up there. And I'm going to left click again when it hits left click. And then I'm just going to right click or hit enter to get out of the command. So there's my center lines on my box. And the reason why I have those grips, right, is because I've got them selected here. Midpoint, endpoint. I just use the midpoint grips. So now let's start drawing. We have enough information. We can actually start looking at our picture here and say, okay, I've got a boundary. I've got a center line drawn. There's not a lot of dimensions pulled off of this horizontal center line that I put in, but I just put it in. Definitely off this. So I'm going to come in here and draw this line, and then which is 2 and an eighth long. So I'm going to draw this. Then I'm going to come up here, but I just don't know where this is. I don't know what the degrees are at or anything, but I do know that the point where they would hit each other is 4 3/4, 4.75. So from here, I can go up along my boundary until I hit 4 3/4, and then I could draw this line. And where these two would be drawn, I could hook them together. So I'm gonna kind of piece this together that way. So this line would be how long? I don't know. I'm gonna make it. I'm gonna like not draw a line 4 3/4 up. Then I'm gonna start drawing a line that's going to go past the center, and then it's going to probably stop right here where this radius starts. And if I zoomed into this, hard to tell, but if I zoom into this, this dimension coming off this extension line here is to the center of this kind of radius feature. And that's likely where this point of tangency is going to exist, like tangent, a radius here to a line and and an arc on a tangent is what I'm going to draw here. So I need to know like maybe how long the line is from here to there, and it's solvable here. It's not explicitly given to me. It's the difference between this is up to 906 or 9.6. So it's the difference of 9.6 from 4.75. So if I just do that math, I have my calculator here. You have a calculator in CAD though too. So it's like if you're in here, it's that really handy utilities tab that I use for, all of my kind of spot check measurements. And I didn't show you this yet, but now that I have some geometry here, you can grab like a measurement. Quick one is nice. It's just like this huge like uh lightsaber of a measurer, but it will like you can see how it spits out quite a bit of the dimensions that are associated with my drawing. This is kind of how I check my stuff as I go because I don't have it dimensioned yet. I don't know what the dimensions are. I mean, I put them in with my, my fingers, but I could have like fat fingered a dimension, when I'm manually entering data with my own, hand and stuff, I could accidentally put the wrong dimensions in pretty easily. And so I have to check myself as I go. Otherwise, as a drafter finds they've done stuff wrong when they're starting to dimension it on the sheets. And that can be pretty painful to go back and correct something that you're finding when you're dimensioning it. So I even train drafters like watch your geometry, check yourself. You have some pretty good access to quick checks here. So as you draw stuff and you get working, like just check yourself every once in a while. Keep track of that you've got it right. That those were good inputs that I saw, so I'm happy. But what I want to show you is there's this calculator here. It's pretty buried, but it's on your utilities tab. It pulls up this little. You can close any of these when you pull them up by the little X in the top, usually in the top corner. Sometimes they're top left. Some of the dialog boxes are weird, but this one shows up pretty standard. So I pull my calculator out quite a bit when I probably use my Windows calculator more than my CAD calculator, but it has some cool functionality that we don't need to talk about. But I just want to know the difference of like, and I think I can use it just like use my keyboard too here, my backspace to get rid of the zero. But it was like a 9.6 dimension minus um, a 4.75, 4 3/4. So really that the length of that line is 4.85. Why I like this calculator, if I remember to use it, is that it stays up, like it stays up with me so I can have some dimensions at my disposal. So what I want to do is I want to draw the line from center over, and then I want to like draw the line that starts at 4 3/4 and goes up, and it's going to be that long. So let me draw that. Only the difference is that's not construction work. That's real. That's actually really going to be like machine cut line work. So I'm going to go to my visible object layer right here. That's what I'm going to draw on now. If you forget to switch layers, there's ways to switch it to the right layer pretty easily, actually. It can be hard if you're on the right, if you're drawing lines on top of lines like we're going to do night here, and they're same color. They can be hard. They can't see them. You won't be able to tell there's a difference in color. You won't be able to tell there's two lines. So what I'm telling you here is if you forgot to change this, watch. I'll do this wrong for a minute. If you forgot to change the line type, line layer, and you went in here to do that two, and let me look at it real quick. This length of line, this 2 1/8 long line, which starts right here. So I'm actually just in the line command, clicking right here, left click, draw this over. I'm going to enter 2.75, sorry, 2.125 as the line length, and then I'm going to hit enter. Like it drew that line, that's where it ends. Like it's ready to draw again. I'm going to hit enter again to escape the command. And you can kind of see it if you zoom in, but and I can see it if I know it's there because I can kind of select it if I can get on it, right? Like it's select there. I kind of see it showing up, but this gets to be tricky. And so it's not the end of the world if you end up doing that and it's wrong. How you'd push it to the right one is you can select it. Like there's that line. It happens to be drawn on top, so I can kind of select it kind of easy. If you draw over the top of it again, it gets buried. And it gets hard to single select it actually. But here's I was able to get it single selected because it's drawn on top of that. And if you just have it selected while you come up here to your drop down list to draw on those, and you come back here and you select this, it will actually push it. And then I can escape now, or yeah, just escape. It did turn it white. You can see that. Like having it selected and then choosing a layer will push that stuff to the correct layer if you drew it wrong. So if you're just watching yourself, it's always easy to push geometry to the correct layer. It's never, usually I don't redraw it. I just push it to the new layer. So, but here I'm going to go actually to that layer to finish drawing. So I'm going to keep that one. The other one starts at 4 3/4 up. So this is a concept I have to teach and kind of and have people struggle with it a little bit. But I'm going to draw another line, but it's not going to start till 4 3/4 up here. And so here's my line command on my visible layer. Here it is ready for the first point. So I come over here and I don't click on this. I'm actually, I haven't clicked anything yet. I've just kind of targeted that spot. And I call it just like, I don't know what the correct term is. I just call it like I'm gonna enter a dimension to like move my cursor to the right location. So I just call it like a cursor movement or something. Like I'm gonna cursor up here, but I'm not gonna like snap here and then draw a line that's 4 3/4. That's what I don't want that. That's actually not real geometry. I just need to start there. I could have drawn that on the construction layer, and then I would have this endpoint to start to hook these two up. But I'm just going to do what I call as a cursor command. I'm going to delete this real quick. I just deleted that. I'm going to call what I do as a cursor move. And so I come up here in the command and I kind of target a point that I want to kind of base my movement from. I don't click anything and I just start moving in the direction that I want to go. So I haven't clicked anything. I'm just moving. But because I'm moving up and I've got that like green little projection showing up, it knows that I want to go up. And then it's actually kicking off the dimensions that I'm seeing in the gray box here. One, it's just 90 degrees right to the angle that I'm at. So it's like perfectly straight up and down because it's calculating 90 is from 0 in CAD is the horizontal line, 0, 180. And so it knows if I'm on a vertical line, I'm at a 90-degree angle. But what I want to say is that the number in front of that is how far I've moved away from where I stopped and hovered for a second. So it's like 1.6 inches away from that little, where you can see it almost looks like a little green crosshair in there. That's how I know I'm just kind of cursor moving away. It's like I target a point, cursor away from it. I can enter that dimension now, even though that's not a blue looking dialog box. I actually do have control to say, oh, 4 3/4 is where I want to move that. And I hit enter. All it did for me, it didn't draw a line at all. There actually is no line between where I started and here. It's just a cursor movement. And now it's put that as my place to start my line. So I just cursored up 4 3/4 of an inch, and now I'm going to draw this line, a particular length that's sitting there in my calculator. It's 4.85 inches away from that point. And then I'm going to hit enter. And then it wants me to keep drawing, but I'm actually going to escape the command now, or hit enter to escape. So that's kind of where that radius will start now, right? So let's go back to this and hook this together. So now where those two, this one and this one, I just need to draw a line connecting the two together. So I'm just going to go into my line command on that visible layer and target that grip that I can kind of see show up, and then target this grip, bam, like that. That's a left click and a left click. And then I'm just going to hit enter or right click, enter. That's another way. You right click and then you hit the enter from the list is kind of like how you exit command by keeping your hand on the keyboard, right hand, but sorry, right hand on the mouse. Anyway, that's it. I got at least 3 lines of this thing. So that's great. Now it's got a weird, funky little curve around, and then it comes down to a circle, and then that goes back up to some top line here. So I got to analyze this a little bit. I'm going to zoom out. So I've got this, and I've got this, and then I come up. I'm strategically doing one other thing that I haven't talked about is I'm actually there was a note in here that's really a critical note. Remove all sharp burrs and sharp edges so I can handle this thing. Yes. 2, part is symmetrical through vertical center line. So that's a killer note to have because it's like it shows me that through this vertical center line, this part is symmetrical. So what I can target is that I can build half this thing, and then I have this quick snazzy way to just mirror it over what I've drawn. So I don't have to draw the whole thing or look. And this is the nature of CAD. Sometimes if you know the commands, plus you know how to draw geometry, you start to find shortcuts. And when you have things that are vertical through, a horizontal or vertical center line, you're probably the key indicator is like, I only probably need to draw half this, and then I can just like mirror it over. That's exactly where the way I'm headed here. So Let's see. So I could probably locate this and find this. I definitely could. I've got dimensions right to it. 960, 9.6 up, and then it comes over from this center line, which is this center line. That's all the same center line. It comes over 8.75. So technically I could draw that in, and maybe I will draw that in. It's going to be I just need some construction work to find the center of this, which is that's what my dimensions are working towards. So I'm gonna draw some construction lines to this and then put in this radius. And a radius is called out on a print with an R like this. That's radius. R's right here. And radiuses are always called out if the geometry is not a full circle. If it's a full circle, it'll be a diameter, like a hole, but then it'll have a diameter symbol in front of it. But an R just means it's a radius. So this is and I have 12 of these radiuses around this thing. So I think when we did this in class, maybe I didn't discuss the radiuses around this. The radii, I guess, would be the correct term. But I can for sure put in, so I can use the arc commands to do that, or what I do a lot for uh, arcs are actually just draw the full circle and trim it to be the arc that I need. And so that's kind of where I'm going to head with this. Let me first put in the construction line center lines. So I'm going to put a line in that's like up from the bottom 9.6 away, and one that's vertical from the horizontal midpoint of mine, 8 3/4. So let me put those two construction lines in. So I'm going to just get rid of that for a minute. And I'm going to say back to my construction layer. I'm going to do a line that is up 9.6 from here. So I'm going to do the same little cursor movement, no clicking, no clicking. Just lock in on it and start pulling away. If it doesn't pull away like this, I just come back to it and try again. Like sometimes it just doesn't like quite, like I just don't pull straight enough for a minute. And you don't have to pull very far. You just kind of lock in and pull a little ways. There you go. Just sometimes it gives it to you, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes I have to exit the command and get back in to get it. Just you'll get better with it as you redo it. But all I'm doing is going to cursor up 9.6, right? 9.6 up. And that's where this horizontal line for this little center line would be. I'm just going to snap this clear across my grid. It's a little bit like projection line work for mechanical drawing. That like I mean I just kind of project this over. I mean, we're only building one view of this. And if you remember from your orthographic projection days, a lot of times we have to build multi-views of our geometry. And that's why I would be ready to like start projecting geometry over to, I could be thinking that I'm going to project it over to the right side anyway across this center line here. So that's one thing is that I am like carrying the projection through my view. And I'm even staging myself to potentially being able to draw over to the next view. So projection applies in this just like it did in your mechanical drawing. And so that's one center line. The other one was 8. That's 9.6 up. The other one's 8.75 over from center. So I'm going to draw that one into the same line, but I'm going to cursor from here. So I'm just locking in. I'm just coming in, no click, just hover, and then pull away and enter the dimension. 8.75 is how far away I want to go. There's where my line's going to start now. And then I'm just going to draw this one the same way, clear across, vertical. I know it's just I only need to know. So I just clicked on where that was a perpendicular grip showing up. Looks like a right angle, but that's it. Yep, just hit enter. Oh, sorry, enter to get out of that command. Where those two cross is that center line of an arc. So really what it has is, I'm going to go to visible object layer. You see I go back and forth all the time. And that's why sometimes I forget, and I can just push it to the next layer if I forget. But we're going to draw a circle here. So that's the center of this like quarter-inch rate. Is that what it is? Quarter-inch radius, right? Yeah, they're all quarter-inch radius. This is a big quarter-inch radius, almost like a full, or I don't know, more than a third of a circle. That's its center. So I'm going to pick this circle. You have a lot of different ways to draw circles. The default in CAD, if you enter the circle command the same way like mine, if you're drawing circles, then you finish drawing and then you go into it again. If you hit enter to go into the command again, it always goes into a center radius driven circle though. So no matter what, it has all these selections. It doesn't go back into that type. It's weird. Center radius is kind of the default circle method for CAD, actually, center radius. And it's kind of the one I go to the most in CAD, probably. Not that I can't do any of these, but it is the most common that I use in CAD. So center radius wants to know the center point first. So here's my center point. We establish it with center lines. and then the next data it wants is the diameter. I mean, it wants to know the radius of that. So you can see that's what it's pulling here, and that's what the right now I could click to here because it is a quarter. That's a quarter inch away. It just happens to be. If not, if you didn't have geometry to line up to like we do, you can enter the 0.25 radius that it is, and then hit enter, kind of like a line. But and that's so that's that. That's like this line that comes up and it hits that circle, and then that's what tips me back, and then I go back in this way, right? So essentially, I don't need the full circle. I'm going to trim that out. Like one of my main like modify commands is trim. It looks like scissors. We use the heck out of trim because, like I said, it's like you get good at like how you visual, and we all do this differently. We visualize geometry differently. Like when I look at something to draw, the shapes that I see, the commands that I have to work with, sometimes I have to trim the geometry command to fit what it needs to be. Um, so that's just a visualization thing. Some of us are good at it, some of us aren't. Some of us have better techniques to get geometry driven drawn faster than not. So even the way I'm drawing this is just the way I see how to start. And there's, everybody might draw this differently. So, as you get experience, you might discern, you start to see geometry different. So the way you see to start this thing is totally different than the way I see to start this. So that becomes pretty much, and you're never controlled in that. It's just like how you see it, how you begin. There's really no right or wrong. Like what I always say is that, well, if it takes you 2 or 3 hours longer to draw your part than me, then maybe there's something I could teach you to visualize different, right? Like if there was something that you could have mirrored that would save like tons of time, then you should have just mirrored it. So sometimes it just has to do, you get better when you know the commands plus your visualization, and then you work with people that you can learn from that can speed you up. So yeah, that's kind of how you get better. But this is kind of my stopping point. I don't know how to turn this down to that. So it feels like I need a circle down here. Maybe I need to know where this comes over. And so I feel like the next thing I could put in is the next circle here, and then maybe hook the two together, or I could start here. But yeah, maybe I'll just kind of try to keep coming around this thing uniform with what the information I have is. So let's locate this next. I'm here, but I don't know how to get. I don't know where the line and the circle touch to where they come down and hit this circle. So I feel like I'm going to put in this circle. That's going to help me for one. So I'm going to look at the circle center lines and mark those with construction lines. So I've got it comes up 8 from the bottom to the center of that circle. And then actually where that line and that circle intersect is actually above center. So this is technically more than half a circle to support the grinder. So first I'm just going to worry about this one though. 8 inches up and then 6 inches over from center. I'm going to put in these center lines. Let's do that on the construction layer. Construction lines. Construction line. Let's do 8 inches up from here. So cursor up, no click. Just hover for a minute and then go in the direction you want to go. There it is. 8 up. I'm going to snap that one across. That's where my line started. Snap it across, clear across. There we go. And sorry, I didn't mean to draw that. If that's okay, I drew an extra line there. When as I pulled away, I'll just hit escape or enter to get out of the command, and then I'll just single select this and delete it. Delete. Easy enough. That circle height center here. Let's go 6 inches over. So same thing, line command. Or I could have hit enter to go back into it. That's okay. Hover for a second, come over 6 inches. This is where that big circle center is. Click that all the way across. There it is. Enter, escape. Good. So this now, if I keep track of my grid, you have to keep track of your lines. It gets pretty busy. Orthograph, just like your mechanical drawings did. Sometimes the projection work gets a little busy. You have to keep track of your grid, what features you're projecting. So this is circle center. So I'm going to place a circle here. So I'm going to go to that visible object. Let me just check the quick size of the circle. So it is also given to me by radius, 1 1 3/4. So that's the center of that circle. Let's draw that in. So here's my circle command, circle radius, what I want. Here's center of circle. So I just hover over it. It's picking up like an intersection point or even a perpendicular grip. Either one is going to be okay. I'm just going to snap it. That's a left click and then pull out. And then just type in the dimension, 1 3/4, right? 1 3/4. And then hit enter. That's the end of that command. If you do it wrong, this is changeable. I mean, you can grip this and try to pull it in, and I can get control over that radius again, 1.75. So if you drop it wrong, remember it's modifiable with one of those grips. Just watch yourself and what you have control over. I can even move it off that point if I need to by the center grip. So this circle has geometry where I can move it if I placed it wrong. Just I gotta make sure to move it when I did that, but okay. So now from here to here they kind of connect, but what I need to know is where that point is on there. And there was a dimension with that on this drawing. So I'm gonna do probably another construction layer here. I need to know where this one and maybe the center line cross. So I'm gonna snap a construction layer that's at 8.25 up. That's what that dimension is. Okay, so I'm gonna go back to the construction layer, back to align command, zoom out a bit here. 8.25 up from here. So I'm cursoring over, no click, just hover 8.25. And that is where I'm gonna draw this one clear across as well. Over to here, left click again, and then enter to get out of there. Okay, so this from this point, I have visible line and then to there, and it's going to be tangent. So I have this, I should be able to snap a line tangent to this. It's one of the main object snaps is tangent right here. Looks like a circle and line. Looks like just what I'm looking for as far as the grip looks. So I've got it on. I'm going to go to my visible line work, pick that command. That's the point. And then I'm just going to come over here. I can hit the quadrant. Yes, that's not exactly right. I want it to be tangent. There, the tangent shows up. And no matter where, like even if I'm like this and tangent it is, it's going to snap to that one point, right? If you remember from your mechanical drawing class, there's only one point in space where, this line that is driven by these 2 points, and there's only one point along the circumference where those two shapes share in common. That's critical for a machine to a machine to interpret that knows that that point of tangency is just one XY value. And then from there it goes, it traces that arc and then it hits that point and it cuts that line. So yeah, that's pretty cool. Now what we have is like extra geometry beyond what we need. And so usually when I trim, I tend to turn off the layers that I'm not trimming. So all I'm trimming here is just my visible white lines. And when you have like all lines on layers like this, trim command recognizes everything and everything in between. So let me show you how it works. We go to modify. We want to modify this circle so it's just the arc part of the circle where where the two lines meet the circle. And the rest of the circle we want to eliminate. We don't want the machine to cut that. So I'm going to trim it. Trim is the opposite of extend. So if you've used extend, it'll be buried underneath there and you won't see it. So you have to know trim is going to show up because we haven't used it yet. I think it's default when you open CAD, it's going to always show trim here. So I'm going to select trim. Trim just says select objects, and trim's kind of cool because whatever you hover over it, it just like wants to start chopping things. I haven't clicked anything, I'm just hovering. And you can see how it works. It'll trim geometry bound by other geometry. So it's trimming this just based off the intersection points of all the layers that would be up. And so when you have a lot of layers up, even to cut this, like watch, it'll be like, I'll come into this and really want to trim this, but I also got to trim this little section right here, right? So this is one way to do it. Just kind of zoom in on the geometry and then just be like, yep, that's trimming. Come over here. This is going to trim. And then I got to kind of zoom in here, make sure this is going to trim, right? I could totally do that. That's all one command. If I hit enter, all that is like one command's worth of trim. And so you can, like, that was pretty easy. That would work just great. You can speed that up if you have large geometry that you're trimming and you have a lot of intersecting lines and you're gonna have a lot of trim selections. So let me I'm gonna undo that. This is like an undo button. Control Z also works as undo. I use the top quick access undo quite a bit though. If I undo that, it just kind of undoes the entire trim. It's not just each individual trim, it's all the trimming you did under that whole command while you were before you exited the command, right? So it's also when I'm trimming a lot of geometry, I generally break it up into smaller chunks because I hate to like have mistrimmed something wrong and then have to undo it and put all the thing. Anyway, that's you don't need to worry about that. But I can speed up trim commands if I toggle off layers. And so this the other thing we haven't talked about with layers is yes, you have your layer and how to select them is just to select them. Go in here and choose it, click on it. But you could lock a layer so it's going to stay. We don't even need to worry about this. All my layers are currently unlocked, but we could lock them almost as like a security measure so things don't get moved or bumped while I'm working on other geometry. I don't want to grab some other layers, construction work or actual work and move it. I can lock it down so it kind of locks me out of messing it up. The sunshine is called, like I'll just look at the construction layer. It's called freeze. So I can freeze it or thaw it. When the sun's on, it's thawed out, it's frozen. Um, and it turns it off. It does show that it turns it off, but it also does another powerful thing, which is it keeps the computer doesn't have to compute that layer either. So it actually is it's used more of like a to free up data, or just kind of like just operational speed that the computer has to process every, we only have 15 plus layers or whatever. It's not a terrible hard thing for this computer to compute, the location of everything all together. It's XY points on all these layers, always tracking them. But when you get a drawing that has 100 layers, or if you reference somebody else's drawing of a house or something, and it's got, they'll have 100 layers or something. And and so those can bog down just how fast your depending on your computer, can process all of those points and coordinates, just point to point data. So if you freeze it, it just frees the computer up so it doesn't have to like track that data. So, and it's like you're not moving that stuff anyway. And so it doesn't have, you can freeze it and let it stop computing it. We don't use it a lot. Our drawing is super simple. So it's not even anything I need to worry about. I just want to tell you what it is. This is what I use more often, is just to turn them on and off. It's still computing it underneath. So it doesn't free up the computer time, but it does do the visual that I need, which is turn it off, right? So if I click that off, it just turns off that layer. Let me show you one more thing. I'm going to turn it on. Just by clicking it, turn it on. If I go over to that layer, I just want to show you, it always gives this disclaimer if you're going to turn off a layer that you're on. So I'm on the construction layer. I'm going to turn it off while I'm on it, essentially. And you get this warning that you're going to turn this off. The reason why you get this warning is because it just wants you to know if you start drawing stuff, you've turned off this layer, nothing is going to show up. So it's a hint. Like in this case, I'm going to say, yeah, just keep it off, turn it off. Or give you the option to be like, oh, maybe I don't want to do that yet. Maybe I'll go off the layer so it's just kind of this reminder that you could do work that you won't be able to see because you've turned off the layer. So if I say, yeah, turn it off, and what it's going to do is try to remind you that if you then were like, yeah, I need to draw a line, I'm going to kind of come in here and I draw it, and I'm like, wait, I didn't draw it. So then you like repeat it. And I was like, well, I needed to come up here, and I'm like, what the freak is going on? Yeah, if you go to turn this on, it's doing that work for you, right? That's that stuff that I was doing. I'm just turned off. So that's why it gives you a warning. I'm going to delete those lines, but in this case, it'll help me free up my trim. And so I'm going to be on the visible object layer. I'm going to turn off my construction layer. And what it does is, the whole point of me showing you this is, now when I select the trim command, it's just going to trim. I only have to, it's like a single selection trim because it's the different points of tangency from the circle to those lines. And so this can be handy, especially when your geometry is quite large and has a lot of projection work that it's crossing. I just turn off those layers and then do my trim work as kind of my order of operations. This is also going to get trimmed out, but I need some more geometry to kind of to do the trim correct. So I'm getting there. I'm going to turn back on my construction layer so I can see it. All right, I've got that kind of trimmed. What we need to do is establish maybe from up. We know this is the point where it turns up as well. That was uniform across. Goes up to some other line. I think we have that over here now. So we're just about done with this actually. Here's my 2.5 inch long line from center over. And then from that point, we connect those 2 points. Let's do that. 2.5 inches over on the visible object layer from here. Top dead center, 12 o'clock on this part. Here we go. From here, I'm actually going to draw this line. So I left click down. It's 2.5 inches. And then I'm going to connect these two to right here, right? So I'm just in that same line command, and I'm going to escape it. So that's my 2 points. I'm going to do just what I told you I'm going to do. I have to trim. So if I look at that trim, it's going to be trim, 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 trim. Or I can just be like, turn that off for a second, come over to trim, and I'll just trim this out. And then that's done, right? So that's all cool. One thing we didn't do in class that I can do here, if you're redrawing this, but I think I can do this after. I'm gonna try both ways. I'm just gonna when we did this in class, I think I forgot to add the other radius. I have this as a 1/4 inch radius here. Yeah. But what that sheet calls out is that there's 12 radii around this part. So this is one. Every corner has been broke. Essentially, it's like a fillet radius, and that's just it's it's common practice in finished parts where I don't want a sharp point if it's something I'm going to handle. I would leave sharp points mostly if I'm creating welding geometry, like weld joints, and I'm speaking to welders here, so I know you're thinking, I don't radius all my corners when I'm building stuff. I like nice sharp corners, edge to edge fit ups when I'm building stuff. So a lot of actual parts that get cut that are become like part of an assembly, those are going to be sharp corners kept on a lot of them, unless it's like some finish work to the inside here or something. But it could be in if this was going to build, if I was going to build a box out of this or something, I'm going to keep sharp corners in a lot of manufacturing. For here, this is actually a finished part to where you're going to be handling this, maybe pull it off, pull it off your rig and throw it on your pipe stand, just to hold your grinders there. And so so this is going to be a part you handle. So I'm just going to detune all those sharp corners so they don't like jam my hand while I grab this, right? It's just going to be kind of a comfortable. So we're just going to break them by a quarter inch. So there's 12 of those there's 12 of those as I count around, right? One, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, nine, 10, 11, 12. So yeah, so essentially every little corner I'm just going to detune a little bit so it's not just a sharp corner. Oh, not much more than if I bumped it with my grinder, though, obviously, right? It's not the end of the world, but let's do it. Um, and so I think I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that second. So when we did it together, we didn't put those in. I do have this one, but I don't have the rest of them. So I think I already told you I'm gonna mirror image this part. I know the only thing I haven't put in it is the slot for where it hooks to the pipe stand. Maybe I'm gonna put that in last as a rectangle once I have the whole part there. I could draw half of it though too. Like it wouldn't be wrong to go in and keep it as part of this, like just draw half of this and then mirror it across into a full rectangle. I think I'm just going to come back and put it in last as a full rectangle. But there's, five other different ways I could draw that too. So what I want to do is mirror this over that center line and show you that modify command of like mirroring over something. So I've only had to draw half of it. And so, yes, I still need to do the radii, but we'll come back to those because I'm going to do it like we did in class and see if it works. The other thing we did in class is we joined it all. So what I want to show on this is that going back to that, even that first, how I built my boundary, and I showed you the difference in the rectangle versus drawing a rectangle with lines. All these geometry that we've drawn in this whole thing are each individual segmented lines, and they all should be connected, and so the machine should be able to cut those without any issues. Um, it's not going to tell us if they're not connected either, but this command I'm going to show you will tell you if you're not connected. So I use this to determine that my geometry is what I would call closed geometry. I know we don't have the other side of this yet, but I can even link up everything together so that it's all one line essentially, or just one single selection. So I tend to do this when I'm mirroring stuff because if I'm going to mirror this command, mirror means, and I can bring up my construction layer just to show that it's going to mirror across the center of this part, which is this particular line is my center line. And the mirror command wants to know what geometry, and then it wants to know like what is your mirror line or like a mirror plane, because this line could be a plane if it was actually like a 3D part, like our material thickness is, keeping in mind that this does have a thickness associated with it, whatever size of plate that I cut it. So this is a line, yes, but it's also a plane in my mind's eye, I guess. And so what I'm going to say is I'm going to say in order to mirror something, if I select the mirror command, it wants me to select objects, kind of like a move or a copy does. And in order to select our particular object, we'd have all these single line selections, right? And it's actually not the end of the world to do this. Like it doesn't take me that long to select these, right? There's how many items total? Like eight total objects. And then it wants to know, okay, once you selected your objects, you'd hit enter because you're done selecting objects. So it's like, okay, I'm done with those. And then the next part of the command is specify the mirror line, and it's a mirror plane or a mirror line. And in order to create a plane or a line, you need 2 points. And so it's going to make you like left click select. So I could left click like the endpoints of my line. But you can see once I collect even 1 point, it's looking for another like point to mirror this. And so in order to complete this, I would come down to here and left click again. And I would have established this like this, right? And then so I've left clicked the top and bottom. And then it always asks you this if you want to erase the source object. I'm glad the default is no, but I just have to hit enter or I have to click no. If I hit enter, it's like, okay, I didn't do it. And then what we have is we've mirrored over like single selection geometry. Everything is just kind of independent but connected, we think. We think we've drawn it right. So here's my check I could do before that. I generally do this when I'm mirroring stuff. So I'm going to undo this. I generally don't mirror stuff that way, actually. What I do is I spend the time to join stuff into kind of a uniform shape. And so it's a buried command, but I wished it was more. I wish it was more on top here, especially for like when you're building parts for machine cut. In this modify tab in the sub tab here. So this is a little deeper knowledge here. Is that right here? This little arrows coming together is what we say join. It's just a command I use to like join those so that eventually when I show you how this works, it'll only take me one click to select all that geometry that's going to be mirrored. So I'm gonna select join. It's like a command. I select it first, command first. Kind of my order of operations is always like choose a command, then choose what to do with the command. Some of them are really critical that way. Others you can get away with choosing the geometry first and then choosing the command. But as a rule of thumb, I remember my order of operations is choose the command and choose what to do with it. So I'm going to choose the command. Then it says select your source object to join. And I'm going to go through and start selecting this stuff. This stuff I do kind of have to select. See, that's how it looks when it's selected. It's electric, kind of an electric blue look. So I'm going to select that. I'm going to select this. I'm going to zoom in here and select this geometry as well. So I'm just going to go around and kind of make it like I was going to mirror it, do all this single line selection. And once I've selected everything that I want to join, I just hit enter. I've selected everything and then it's done. And now you know this worked. Doesn't seem like it did anything, but you know it worked when you hover over it, and it's all joined now, right? It's a single selection to mirror this, to rotate it, to copy it. And I know if this is if everything is joined point to point, tangent to tangent, it will allow me to join it. If it doesn't allow me to join it, then I know that, or if it only joins half of it or something, then I can kind of zoom in on that point and see like, are they disconnected? And I need to connect them. The machine wants me to connect them anyway. And so I use the join command as just kind of check that it's like got the machine's going to interpret the line as a continuous line is what I'm looking for, right? I don't want any breaks in that line, or the machine's going to interpret that break as it's going to hang up and not cut completely through. And so you'll get parts that are hung up in you'll get parts that are hung up in your sheet that won't fall out because there was a space between geometry somewhere. You know, if that line wasn't tangent to that circle and there was a little space between them, well, then you've got to get out your grinder sometimes and cut these out. And that's just poor cutting. So I do this as a check for interpret, and then it makes some commands faster, like mirror now. So now when I mirror, I only have to select that object and enter or right click, and then I still have to specify the mirror line, which could be, it really doesn't have to be the entire line. It could just be anything that's like, in the angle that you're looking for, right? Like, so that's the same. I'm going to say don't source. But I'm going to go ahead and turn around and use that same command again and make sure, because these are, I'm close to connected geometry, but I'm still two halves. So I can join those again. So I'm going to use join. I'm going to select this geometry and this geometry. I'm just going to hit enter. And I hope it all made one continuous part. Sure did. Now for us, then I got to draw this rectangle, and then I got to worry about the radius. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to do a quick check here to make sure I can do the radius that we didn't do in class. So I'm going to turn off my construction layer for a minute. Yeah, and I'm going to move to the visible line layer. I turned off the layer I was on. What we needed to do in class is um, we needed to put that radius on all these. So I'm going to do that. Let's see if it'll do it. It's a joined unit now, so it doesn't recognize as totally separate geometry, but let's use this. It's a modify command. It's fillet. The opposite of fillet is a chamfer, or we have this other one that's way less used for just standard parts in machine or in mechanical world. But chamfer and fillets are used a lot, and it'll have just whatever I use last. So if you can't find fillet, it's probably in a buried. It's the opposite of chamfer. Those are usually the two that I display. I think fillet's default, but it shows up. Fillet command is annoying a little bit. It's it's definitely one that I choose the command and then I come down here and it says select first object. So it's a little misleading. And this is the problem with it. I'll show you. Maybe I'll go to an obvious corner here. I want to put a 1/4 inch radius on this. So if I'm not paying attention, I look at my cursor, it tells me to select first object. If I look at my command line, it tells me that I've got a lot of additional functionality with this thing. But if I'm not paying attention, I might think that okay, I'm gonna select this object, then I'm gonna select this object. Oh, and mine is already set up. Did I do some trimming already? Usually your fillet, let me see, usually your fillet command radius default is going to be 0. I don't know why. I must have done something today where I've already set my, I've done some other drawing today, and so maybe it's remembering. But usually if you haven't done any fillet commands, it's going to be the default is 0 for the radius. And so you might think you come in here and you're like, I'm selecting fillet. I'm selecting this geometry and this geometry, and then then it just boots you out of the command like it's done. It just did, and you're like, what the heck? I didn't do a fillet, and then you go back and do that again and again and again. This is an annoying command. I don't know why they haven't fixed these in all these years. Now everybody that's run CAD gets used to this, but the default is 0 for fillets for some stupid reason, and so um, here's what I have to remember. With fillet command, I need to then usually put R for radius. I need to choose the command and then tell it the radius. And I wish the prompt said select radius, but it doesn't. So I usually have to remember to hit R for radius. And then I'm going to say that, oh, it's a 0.25 radius, quarter inch radius, enter. And now I can choose this. Yeah, and this will be great. So this is how I'm probably going to modify. I could have done these fillets before I mirrored, but it's going to be fine to do, a join geometry and go ahead and apply the fillets later. So I'm going to do that now. I'm going to go around to all these. Here's the other annoying thing about fillet. It does one at a time. It won't let you do, it's faster the second time you've used it, right? So it's not, so if I go to the second one and want to do that, and it's like fillet, okay, or you put enter to go back into it. Now, when you select these and you've actually input a radius, it remembers the last one you did. So that's faster. It's at least got a radius put in, but I got to remember to set that every time. Another thing I was going to show you is when you go to set that radius, you can actually just select from the command line too. These are selectable like commands here on the command line. So if you ever have like what I call is this is like this is the command, and then these are just kind of sub commands that I can do with that same command. So some commands are very dynamic. They do multiple. I mean, they have some pretty modifiable geometry with them, and they get pretty fancy. But the one I want to show you is, yeah, these are selectable. I've already selected quarter inch as my radius, but multiple is the one that I wish it was a continuous command, but it's not. Like a line is kind of a continuous command. You select the points, the command just stays drawing lines until you escape or press enter. Well, you have to remember to hit multiple if you're doing like I had 12 of these to put on, so I should have just like wanted to do multiple. Once I've selected multiple, now the command will stay open. And this is an additional annoying thing about the fill command. You get used to it in CAD if you use it a lot, but say now my command just stays like continuous. So now I can go along. I'm applying the same quarter inch radius to all the corners. So I've set the radius at quarter inch, and I've also set it up to be multiple selections. And so now I can kind of start finally going to town and doing all the quarter inch radiuses. So this is and I say radiuses as if radii just sounds way weird to me, but so I'll continue to say the wrong English in but it's Idaho, I guess. What are you gonna say? Welcome to Idaho, born and raised. All right, here we go. That's done. Just needs a rectangle and where to put that thing. So I might need to build some construction. I'm going to turn back on my construction layer, but we're just about done until we talk about graphic imagery, which will be the next video will be maybe how to draw graphics. But for this, let's see. I just need to view this and decide how to draw this. So I'll show you another way you can draw and maybe use a move command. But I could come in here now. Like one way I could draw this is come up. Okay, it tells me that I'm 2 for a 9375. You guys have that memorized, right? It's 15/16. 2 and 15/16 up from the bottom. And then this thing is 0.4375 or 7/16 wide. I'm hoping, I think, I think what I said is the thickness of I think we measured the thickness of a standard pipe stand in the shop was 3/8 plate thick by 3 inch wide. And so I've put a 16th of tolerance clearance on these. That could not be enough. I hope I don't have to make you grind these out. I think I'll cut one Monday maybe, or we'll do something and decide if it needs to be. If it's thicker plate, if it's 10 gauge, I can't remember what material they're going to cut these out of, but the kerf won't be anyway. You guys know about kerf, you know about how when you flame cut stuff, there could be a little angle to it, just slightly. And so if this isn't enough tolerance to slip that over, I hope I don't make a bunch of grinding, but it's a 16th bigger all the way around than the part, which is pretty tight tolerance. That's why I'm worried about it a little bit, but it's not super sloppy. But We'll decide after we cut them. Try them. Uh, 2 and 15/16 up, 7/16, and then the width of it is 3 and 1/16. So it's just 16th bigger than a 3-inch pipe stand material, I think. So you could come in here to center and I could draw that, right? Or I could come cursor, I don't know. I'd probably come up to center. So one way I could draw it, maybe I'll move this over so I have those dimensions real quick. But I could come over here to my visible object layer, grab my line. Maybe I have to reselect that because okay, here we go. And I could cursor up. The bottom is at 2.9375, enter. So I'm going to start my line here. Then I would come over half of 3 and 1/16. So you'd have to do a little bit of math here. You have to use your math. A 16th, half a 16th, 32nd. 32nd is what? 0.03125. Does that sound right? Yeah, 0.0625 is a 16th, 0.03125. Something. I'm going to do this a little different way, but you could you could do that. You could do the half math, draw this, trace this around as a rectangle, done deal. I'm going to show you just one way. Sometimes we as drafters will draw geometry and then move it to where we want it. So it's not that I don't need, maybe I do need a construction because it's weird. I don't have the center. In order to place stuff, sometimes like this kind of geometry, I would place it by center maybe. So I technically don't have a great indicator for this 2 and 15/16. So I might draw one line, and I might draw a line over a line here. So I might break my own rule. Sometimes I add another layer that's a different color, and it's another construction layer. But in this case, what I really want to know is I'm going to click here. I'm actually going to draw this line over line. Well, what did I say it is? It's 2.9375. That's to the bottom of the kind of the rectangle for the slot cutout. I can see that, and I can use that as a grip to attach this to. So I'll show you what I'm going to do. This is just a way, but sometimes I draw the geometry that I need. So I'm going to draw a visible line rectangle. I'm just going to click it anywhere. It doesn't even go here. I'm just going to click it here. I'm going to start pulling it away. I'm going to make it the actual size that it is. It's 3.0625 widthwise, tab 0.4375, and then we hit enter. And so that's the right size of rectangle that I need. Now I'm just going to move it to place it. I'm going to move it by a few different ways. Maybe I'm going to move it by the center bottom. So when you move something, it wants to know what geometry. Just select it anywhere. There's the geometry. Then it wants to know, okay, once you've selected your geometry, then it gives you the option, once I hit enter, it gives me the option to select the base point, right? And that's when you get back to the grips. When you're selecting geometry, you're not looking for grips. You're just looking for actually just anywhere clicking on it. When you're selecting to place it, it's by which grip. And so the grip I'm going to place it by is actually this bottom midpoint. And it's because that is going to line up with when I hover over and I'm looking for that grip on that. There's the mid grip on that line I drew, and there's an end grip for it right there, right? So I just moved it, and then once I click that, it's the command exits me, and then I could double check that. I could measure this distance. Distance measurements are like from point to point, 2.9375. That looks correct. The geometry of it inside, quick dimension, yeah, 7/16 by 3 and 1/16. So cool. This is the actual, and I think we kept that as a nice sharp inside corner. Has to slip over that rectangular like pipe stand material. Done deal. So enjoy that. I would encourage you to draw that a couple different ways, or go back through this a few times and rework yourself on these commands. So I'm going to save that. Save on my desktop. That's where I've saved mine, so I can email it to myself. Yep, replace it. Done deal. So catch you guys on. I do want to upload a video of how to trace imagery in CAD and kind of show you how painful it is, but it can be done. But that might be my next video.